I think this brings us to like an interesting conversation that I saw like Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson having, and I think it was Joey that pointed this out, where there's this kind of horseshoe theory happening where the left and the right are coming to the same conclusions about what's happening in the world.
They're coming to the same rhetoric, not the same.
Okay, fair enough. They're coming to the same rhetoric, and this maybe holding the same like institutions responsible.
No, play this clip. Can we play it for a second? Because
Mark, can you just text it right now?
You showed this to me, and I feel like I almost lost my mind.
Because, and I'm not bringing this up as a criticism of them. I'm bringing it up as them understanding that there are concerns that the people have that need to be met, regardless of what party you're in. And they seem to be echoing certain sentiments that I think that you would agree with, even though you guys might be diametrically opposed when it comes to your politics.
There is always, if you listen to the way people are critiquing what's gone wrong, it always seems like there should be room for agreement. Why you don't get to that agreement, we should talk about. But just play it. Like this is like enjoy things now and pay for it later. It is a.
You know what I don't like about conservatives, and I am one, is that it would never occur to some of them that there are two sides to the story. It's like immediately, they blame the people who are buying Coachella tickets on credit. Which I get. You shouldn't buy Coachella tickets on credit or your pizza or your Whole Foods order. I totally agree with that. That's stupid. But it doesn't occur to them that there's another side, that the people loaning the money are taking advantage of the dumb people borrowing the money. That both are culpable. And by the way, I think the people with more power and more wisdom are probably more culpable morally than the people who are, in other words, like, are we matter at the drug user or the drug dealer? And then typically the dealer, but conservatives look at all economic arrangements and they never blame the dealer. And I don't know what that is. Like, how about we'll blame everybody? It's bad.
I think the reason, and it's a tick within the conservative movement, is that all of a sudden we're Marxists if we do that. And I think that no, I'm not saying, I don't believe that.
No, but you're absolutely right. I think like I'm a racist if I don't like mass immigration. Well, I don't like mass immigration, but I'm not a racist. I don't like this, and I'm not a Marxist. Like, exactly. It's just name calling to stop you from raising the question.
It's thought terminating cliches, is what it is.
So good,
right? It's stop thinking it, because we're gonna terminate your thought by calling you a Marxist or whatever. And do I think this should be illegal? I don't know. Probably. I need to learn more about it. All I'm saying is I am here as a messenger of the next generation. I'm telling you, this is bad. This generation can't own anything. They owe so much more money than generations prior. This is the most indebted generation in history. And I double checked that. Gen Z owes the most money in any history, any generation in history. So we wonder why then all of a sudden, hey, you want to go buy a home now at the age of 38, your credit score is destroyed. Your spending habits are terrible. You don't want to save and you don't think you should save. And you know what I hear from some of them is they say, well, why should I save when what I saw around me is that you need to get into this economy and spend because the savers got wrecked in 2008.
Tell me what you think.
So the thing that just drove me crazy about the middle of that, because neither Tucker nor Charlie are stupid or uninformed.
Yeah.
It's like when they're like, well, why don't we take seriously that you have predatory lending? There's an agency. It's called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It was started during the Dodd-Frank post-financial regulations. It was Elizabeth Warren's idea. It was full of people basically doing that thing, regulating the way credit cards are used and marketed, trying to give people information about things, regulating scams. And the Trump administration came into office with like the support of Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson, and they burnt the CFPB to the ground the way they did USAID. Right? People didn't hear as much about it, but we actually have people who've been worrying about this. And like, you can debate, how, like, there are hard trade-offs here when you're talking about putting Coachella tickets on credit. You're talking about credit cards. People aren't like going and taking out a HELOC loan to get a Coachella ticket, right? They're putting it on their credit card. Do you really want the government regulating what people can, put on their credit card? Like, I think that's tricky, even for me as a liberal. But we do have, like, it's not just that conservatives won't think it, they won't think it. The administration they support just destroyed the regulator that was trying to work on the thing they say they're upset about.
Very fair argument. We got our finger wagging out. We got our I told you so out. Now let's just address what's happening emotionally, because I think they're reacting to what people are feeling. So now this is the opportunity to build the coalition. What do you?
You're going to run someday.
I'm not. I don't want anything. I don't have no interest
Finally, a
in
person who can bring us together.
No. I don't. I just think that this is good. You make a good point. I think it's a fair point. I think that they should also.
I just want to say I'm not
that.
point scoring. The
No,
reason
I'm not accusing you of that.
the reason I say this is not because I don't want to find common ground. I'd love to find common ground. It's that I do think there's so much rhetoric happening in politics at all times, and the question of what is actually being done.
Yeah.
And like, do people know about it?
I think that's probably
it often diverges.
I think
in a
that's
way
probably frustrating for you.
It's very frustrating for me.
Yeah, because
yes.
I think that like you, and it's one of the reasons why I love talking to you is because you really understand like the instruments of politics.
And he actually knows what's happening.
Yeah, you understand the policy and you understand like how these things do affect people. So I'm sure you hear them talking.
But so to the common ground side,
what are they speaking to? Rather, maybe
there is a crisis of indebtedness and unaffordability.
There we go.
And those two things are very related.
Okay.
How to solve it, right? That's again like the whole introduction of abundance is about the crisis of affordability, which by the way is a term coined by my wife who works for the Atlantic back in 2021.
Yeah, get yourself some credit.
Yeah, exactly.
Get yourself some credit.
I'm not going to take. I'm not going to create credit
Leave
for that
her with
one.
the kids so you can do a podcast with the boys. Get yourself some credit.
So you have this economy where the things people need to fill a house, furniture and televisions, have gotten cheaper, and the things upon which they build a life have gotten much more expensive.
Beautifully said. Hey, give us an example.
Healthcare,
Yep.
elder care, child care, higher education, housing. You could name a couple others. Energy is more complicated than that, but those are big ones. And the biggest one is housing. It's why I focus a lot on housing. That is the biggest item in most people's budgets. But healthcare is the most desperate item in people's budgets. And when things get bad, healthcare really bites, right? Education, like these are things that if you don't have it for yourself or your children or someone you love, you will mortgage everything.
Yeah.
You will go into any amount of debt, right? And part of what's going on there is we don't have enough of the things, right? Housing is in the places where people most want to live. We don't have enough houses, and that has meant a incredibly large wealth transfer to people who own homes and the people whom those homes will be passed on to, right? There's one of the problems is not just that you have you have this growing problem of also dynastic wealth. I've had more libertarian economists tell me, like, I don't understand why you're so upset about
Dynastic wealth. Can you explain that?
Wealth just going down through families, right? I've had libertarian economists say to me, I don't understand why you're so upset about the homeowning. Like when looking at charts about Gen Z homeownership or millennial homeownership versus boomers, it's like that problem is going to solve itself. The boomers are going to die,
and then pass all of their shit to the next.
Yeah, that's not like how you build a fair society.
Right.
That it goes down the cord of dynastic wealth. So the Republican Party, which I think, and this is, I think, good, it increasingly represents people who are working class. It increasingly represents people who, don't have college educations. And particularly in 2024, it won a bunch of young voters. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, there's pressure on it and in it
to answer those
to do something about this. My frustration is often I feel like they weaponize very real concerns and turn them on weaker people. Like J.D. Vance will say really smart things about the housing crisis and then blame it on illegal immigration, which is just not what it is.
Yeah.
But
it's an easy scapegoat. And that's not to say that there aren't problems with immigration, absolutely, but it does become this easy scapegoat that you can feed to the base, and the base feels satisfied. They think things are going to change, but it might not actually accurately address the problems.
It exploits the issues rather than
exploits the issue and uses it. I mean, this is a problem of when you have scarcity. That's like a really good breeding ground for a resentful politics, right? And it's one reason I think liberals should be very attentive to alleviating scarcity where we can. But the thing that they are getting at there, which is people are going into a lot of debt in order to not just afford the very big things, but increasingly afford the small things, like that's also true. And there's a question of how tightly we want to regulate financial products. But that's why I bring up things like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, because the Republican Party has fought tooth and nail against the kinds of regulations that would keep certain kinds of debt and certain kinds of financial instruments from being something that are just like too easy to get because we worry about people making bad decisions around them. And this stuff gets really complicated.
No,
like,
I think that makes
it's got
a good point.
like a trade-off on it.
But you can see these two guys going like, I don't know if I think one of them said, I don't know if that should be illegal. I don't know exactly what was said, but it seemed like they were in favor of restriction. And here's a great opportunity to be like, okay, maybe you didn't realize that getting rid of that bureau was the restrictive force, but now you've come to the conclusion that there should be some sort of guardrails. So what are these guardrails, and how can we, bipartisan, come together and make those guardrails? And this is where I get concerned, because I think there's a lot of times where liberals go, you fucked this whole thing up. And it's like, okay, you fucked it up. How long are we just going to sit here and go, you fucked it up?
Well, let me
It's like your doctor going, you smoked cigarettes for 40 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have lung cancer, but you're going, doc, I know I fucked up. How do I get rid of the lung cancer?
Let me steelman the liberal position for you a little bit to make my, I'm gonna call it cynicism, because I would work with anybody on this stuff, right?
I love that.
There is an abundance, or it's called the Build America Caucus in the House, and it's Republicans and Democrats.
Great.
Right? And it's a thing I really try to do on my shows, like have Republicans on. But the cynicism comes from watching people make good, believable, and empathetic arguments in public.
And then
Repeatedly do the thing that is the opposite in private. The reason, again, this goes to like different frameworks of the world, I guess, a little bit, but the reason like somebody like me is rip shit about the big, beautiful bill, right, that just passed, is it, Trump and his people have been making these arguments about populism for a long time now. And they have been promising to make things better for people. And they've been promising, not to cut Medicaid. And then they get into power. And whatever they're saying publicly, they do the opposite. Trump, at his first address in his second term for the joint session of Congress, he said he would balance the budget. He just added $3.5-ish trillions of debt. Yeah. He's promised his people he was not cutting Medicaid. He cut Medicaid. And so the thing that is upsetting, if we could all work together on this, that would be great. I would raise my hand. I could not be more excited for it. The thing that is frustrating is when it feels like what is getting carried out over time is a deception.
But that's the politicians. What I'm saying is the people are up for grabs, so to say.
Yes,
right now.
I agree with that. The people are up for grabs.
So it's like, and we're talking to two people right there that are people. And they're representative of people in terms of their audience and the ones that they're speaking to. So they can't exactly rebuke their audience, right? They're probably going to be more willing to understand the feelings and sentiments of their audience because they're not locked to legislation. So I'm not saying that you're going to change their minds, but there is this opportunity where they're speaking to their people are agreeing about these concerns. And then we have the opportunity to be like, hey, you guys asked for this, or to go, hey, you're telling your audience that this is a problem. I also agree it's a problem. Let's come together. It's Epstein in that, hey, we all agree this is a problem. We can work together to make some change. Here are our ideas. And if they can't beat your ideas, they got to join them.
That's not how that works. That's not how that works.
Maybe I'm being a little bit too idealistic.
I also think you're being a bit idealistic in that what will often happen with these issues that are important, but not as important to voters. Yeah. They're still going to get divided on the biggest issues.
That's fair.
Which are pro-choice, pro-life,
you're right.
Whatever else. And then that, Republicans, Democrats, whoever, corrupt politicians can just cloud everything with that, and then they can still sneak in there.
But let's do it in easier version.
Can I say one thing really quickly? Is it like, I think that you're 100% right about that. And I think that's why politics becomes so difficult, is you throw some other things out there that can distract. But this is the same criticism I have of Hakeem Jeffries or Schumer or anybody who is running as a Democrat for mayor. It's just like, you can call Zoran a communist or anti-Semite. You can throw out all these pejoratives, or you can address the problems in what you feel is a better way. And I feel like there's so much name calling instead of recognizing, hey, we agree on the problems. Here's a better solution. If you don't offer a better reform, as you said, then you don't got a fucking chance. So it's like, we agree both sides feel this way. If you got, not you or whoever else in your coalition, have the better ideas, maybe you won't pull all of them over, but you recognize bipartisan support for something.
Yeah, look, I'm all for that. And I hold to two sides of this at once. Like, one, I'm not a politician, right? I'm an analyst. I know. So I want people to know what's really going on. Right. I think probably a lot of people watching FLAGRANT don't know
100%.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was destroyed.
You're talking
by the Trump administration, right?
You're talking to Forbes right now.
So I want people to know what happened. But
I just got a rush card.
The politics.
I got a good rate. It's 25%. That's all I got to pay.
God, that's a throwback.
One of the absolute real mainstays of politics is people don't want it to feel like this, and they don't want it to work like this.
They don't want it to feel like this.
They don't want it to. The thing that you are pointing out here, hitting all of politics for, right? People want to see their politicians work together. They want to see them. They believe. Like I've done. Again, my first book is about why this doesn't happen. It is the most powerful politics to promise that it will happen. I just see it all the time.
Do they want to see politicians working together on things?
I think that we all have a little bit of a divided soul on a lot of this. We want to see people working together, so long as we think that where they're going to end up is where we want them to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when it starts to go off the rails,
to satisfy me.
No.
Exactly. But I think there is some chance the Republican Party is in a kind of like a period of transition between its old form and its kind of next form, right? That it's going to have to become more populist in an actual way, not like a fake rhetorical way, because of who's voting for it. I'm not 100% sure if that's true, but I think it's plausible. Again, though, it would be great to see people work on some of these things. So, for instance, there is bipartisan agreement that we should build more houses. And the government could do a lot about that. The federal government could do a lot about that. And they're not.
Well, they're not until there's, a huge calamity. I think you even said it was an abundance. Was it Shapiro rebuilding the bridge or something?
Oh yeah, so that's a great story. I mean, that's I think a different kind of story. Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, there's this I-95 bridge that collapses after a tanker overturns and catches fire. And he's able to get it rebuilt in 12 days, but he does it with an emergency declaration that wipes out all
the
of these
bureaucracy that would stop it. Yeah.
And that's what I'm sort of saying about the way that Democrats, the left doesn't often choose between its different goals. And there he chose. He used union labor, right? The unions rebuilt that bridge. But the procurement regulations, the environmental regulations, the contracting regulations. I talked to the Secretary of Transportation in Pennsylvania. I was like, how long would this have normally taken?
This is great.
And he was like 2 to 4 years to just get through the bid and contracting process.
So not even making it. Whoa. So he did it in 12 days, but to go through the red tape, it would have taken 2 to 4 years. And I thought this was like a perfect example of abundance showing the limitations of that bureaucracy. Now, I get that there's important bureaucracy when it comes to building. Like I renovate an apartment in New York City. I fucking flooded my downstairs neighbor. And that's with all the bureaucracy. Yeah. If there was none, we'd be living in a fishbowl. I know for a fact. So I understand, especially in a city like this, like you need some guardrails because there's some people that are not going to care about their neighbors.